Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Beekman Planning Board this evening. If you will all stand, please. Please take notice of the exits. We have one, the one in the back and the rear, and this one as well. And if you'll all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you'll please remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and service personnel, as well as the people who are suffering in Turkey and Ukraine.
Syria also, right?
Yeah.
And Syria. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated.
In Chicago.
Okay. To begin with, if I could request a motion to, we're changing procedure this evening. We've received agreement from the applicants to change the order of the agenda. Semco is not on the agenda this evening. They pushed, and so did Nina Mason to next month. We're going to begin with Station Grill, the discussion, and then we'll begin the Barton Orchards public hearing.
I'll move to reorder the agenda to have Station Grill start first and then Barton Orchard second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. All right. So, Kevin, would you like to approach the podium, or do you have your... All right, thank you. This is Station Grill, an amended site plan. Discussion?
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Hello, Kevin.
How are you? How's
Good.
everybody?
Okay.
You start, or do you want me to
If
start?
you'll describe and explain the letter that
Yeah, what we're looking to do is not expand, but we look for permission to be able to use our yard that's approximately 100 foot by 75 foot that sits idle out back. I know when we originally started the planning process that water was an issue and occupancy was an issue, and water has not been an issue. All those records are on record. We also spoke with the Board of Health. They have no problem with us being able to put a seasonal tent out there so we can put a little bit of additional seating. I've had, I can't even tell you how many requests for people that want to eat outside repeatedly over and over and over. So we've had a lot of people approach us for outdoor dining because obviously still there's the COVID thing. And business hasn't been that great since COVID. I mean, everybody's hurting. So any little bit that I can get some help with and be able to use a little bit more seating outside to help customers out and to expand a little bit. The whole backyard just sits there empty. I mean, I've used it for a couple things, but nothing for dining. We've had like cornhole out there and stuff like that. So that's what we're looking to do. I'm looking to put up like about a 30 by 50 tent, which on nights like if I have cornhole, I can put that under there instead of getting rained out and losing the income from that. So multiple uses, just mainly outdoor dining and small events. No loud live music and nothing later than 7, 8 o'clock at night as far as music goes. But I'd like to have dining, out during my dining hours. That's the gist of it.
Okay. Have you had a chance to speak to any of the neighbors, at this
No,
point in time
I
yet?
haven't spoke with any of the neighbors.
Okay.
Kevin, Board of Health has no problem with doing this on top of...
Nope, we got the clearance from them. It's not a problem. We would, if we put a tent up, which we, obviously need to because weather permitting, they have no problem with us, and we wouldn't use stakes. We would use, weights and barrels and stuff like that that the tent company would supply.
Chair. How would that increase your need for parking?
I don't see it, because right now we have the parking, plus obviously we know we have 36 spots over at the bank, and they continue to give us permission to use that with no issues. We maintain it when need be.
Now, that doesn't change your occupancy, right? Meaning you have a maximum occupancy?
Yeah, we have the
set.
maximum. And right now, I mean, like when I left, there's 8 people in the dining room, 8 people at the bar. I mean, this is why we just need the extra space to put people. I don't think occupancy even really hardly ever plays into it. We're not that busy where occupancy is an issue.
Well,
even on the nights when we have bands and stuff.
I was reading somewhere, I'm not sure if it was in this letter.
Yeah,
Inside areas will be closed off.
Yeah, that the inside area for the equal amount will be closed off?
That's what they requested. If that's going to be a continual request, because I don't see 101 people being there at any one time. So majority of our business hopefully will be outside and not inside. I can close the dining room if need be and just keep the bar area open.
Well, it would impact septic, I would think, and it would also impact parking
Yeah.
significantly if,
Well, for one, I agree that today you have to be innovative. I think a lot of people became very comfortable, especially during the proper seasons, eating outside,
Correct.
even on sidewalks. But, today you have to do what you can to make it as appealing as possible for people to want to dine. It's tough business.
Yeah, we've got to open it up to a larger demographic, I believe, because I have, obviously, I have my place on the waterfront, and people wait an hour and a half to eat outside before they'll stay inside upstairs. I have a 120-seat dining room upstairs that'll sit empty.
very nice.
People wait to go outside before that.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you closed during the winter there?
No,
No, you're
I'd
not.
like to be,
No.
but
You're not? Oh,
we have to
okay.
stay.
I was just curious. Yeah.
Little income.
Does any board member have any questions? Have they had an opportunity to read the letter? They need more time?
Yeah, Kevin,
Yeah.
on the seating, that capacity, correct me if I'm wrong, is set by the Board of Health, I think?
Yes, Board of Health. We spoke with them, and they want a couple more months of water usage, which, I've already given them 15 months, and we have never even come within 500 gallons of our daily usage. I'm allowed 2,000 gallons a day. My average for the last 6 months is about 540 gallons a day. So we're
Okay,
coming
but
nowhere near the
Does
limit.
that affect the seating capacity, or, in other words, I know that the capacity is roughly 100 people, 101 people?
Yeah, yep, correct.
So, would you not have to, if you're gonna have people outside, would you not have to close a portion of the dining room, we'll say, so that you don't exceed that allowed capacity?
Yes, when we know we're going to be busy, or say I have an event outside, say a small wedding or something like that, where I'd like to, put people outside, we could close that inside dining room without question and just use the bar room, the seating in the bar area. Because if you're familiar with the place, it's sectioned off into two separate areas.
I don't have a problem with you doing it outside.
Can
Because
you,
the Board of Health is was issued on water usage, and I've more than proven to them that we don't come close to our limit at any one time, even with 100, 101. When in the beginning, when we were really busy, we never used that much water. I think 1,400 gallons.
Can we make
We've
an
addressed
amendment?
that.
Yeah, so, all right, so
I would like to comment.
procedurally, okay, go ahead, Rob, please, why don't you go ahead and do that first?
Can you give us a description of your intentions for entertainment outside?
Entertainment would be nothing more than maybe a two-person acoustic or a light type band. If there was, like, say, a wedding or something like that wanted music. There won't be no rock, no loud music, no huge speakers, none of that.
I mean, if you have a wedding, I've never been to a wedding where I can hear the guy next to me. It's,
A wedding is, just saying a possible wedding. I don't know that we're going to do weddings or push weddings out there, so I don't foresee it being an issue at all. And it would still be no later than 7, 8 o'clock at night, 9 at the very latest. So,
the only reason why I asked was because the prior owner came in with an application, and that was one of the issues that
I
the
know
local
we've been
community
dealing-
brought up.
Yeah, we've been dealing with prior owner stuff. I think that's where a lot of our problems were, between the septic and the music and the parking and the neighbors. And I've been doing this for almost a year and a half now, and I pretty much kept my word. I don't stay open past midnight. We don't have crazy nights, bar nights and stuff like that. It's not my thing. I could do it, but I don't want to.
Is there going to be additional lighting in the back?
We have the string lighting all along the fence now that lights up. There's a couple spotlights out there, and I would put the string lighting underneath the canopy.
That's all I have.
Yeah, so procedurally, there's a site plan that's approved by this board, and it does say that there's no outdoor seating allowed, no outdoor entertainment, anything like that. So there has to be an amendment.
Right.
So it's amended site plan application. It's going through the process.
Yep.
In theory, there would have been an opportunity to have the Board of Health actually say, based on your water meter usage, that you could have added seats, which would have also made you add parking spaces too.
Right.
So the difficulty will be the code enforcement, if you will, on the seating swap. So if you have something going on the
Where does
outside.
the additional parking that we were allowed to use at Key Bank? I know with the owners of the property there, we said a clause, they're not liable for anything, and we have that agreement.
I didn't know that that was in place. I thought that there was going to be an agreement during the last approval process, but then we limited it to the parking that's actually on the site.
Well, we did that because it worked for the 101, but if
Yeah.
we need more, it's there. It's 36 spots,
I never
which
seen it, but he did.
we
That
have-
was
we
that was
have no
part of it
problem.
because
I don't have
there was a question with the ownership of the parcel, but also getting Key Bank's authorization. So there's
said
two different people that had to
60 days.
authorize the agreement.
Right, and
And
Key
from
Bank
what I-
came to me and said that they don't need a written thing. Even their signs say no parking during business hours. So their parking is mine to use, and that's come from all the managers that have been over there.
How about the owner of the property, though?
I know that they had me sign a non, whatever it is, so they're not liable for any
Okay,
injuries.
my
And that was
recollection
done.
during the last process was that wasn't going to be allowed. So that's why, because the parking configuration provided enough parking for the 101 seats.
Right.
So that may need to be incorporated into that amended site plan then as well. Because
What
there
would
was
you-
going
what
to be a
would you want
crosswalk
for
on
that?
Palmer Circle.
Right, what
So-
would you be looking for? Because I know we already have a verbal
Written
agreement.
agreements,
Okay.
just to make sure that.
Because last time they said they were fine with the way it was, that they weren't going to do a written agreement, they were just okay with it.
But you're still going to be limited to 101 seats, so your parking on site technically meets the
Right.
requirement.
Yeah. And
So-
like I say, right now, it's not, and I don't foresee
shouldn't
it
be people
changing a
really
lot
using
where
that
it's going to
parking
be
lot.
overcrowded
Yeah.
all the time anyway. But people come, like tonight, there was 8 people at the bar, and they came with 7 cars. It's what people do, and it's hard.
Yeah.
I have no control over that, obviously.
Kevin, so that there's no questions in the future or ambiguity, if I got the right word, could you submit another letter to the owner and a copy to this board that whatever the agreement would be between you and the Garrido, the property owner?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think I still have a copy of the form that we already filled out with the Garridos. I don't know if that would be sufficient or you need a new one, but
Yeah, it could be sufficient, but also, I'd like to ask you to submit a copy of it to the town planning board
Okay,
via the town engineer.
all right. Not a problem.
I have no problem if it takes a motion to make the amendment.
No, they have to submit
Yeah, this is
formally
just
an
a-
application.
it's just a discussion at this
This is
point,
just a
yeah.
discussion at this point, so.
Where do you intend to put the tent?
I'm thinking as close
Have to
to,
show
as
that.
close to as close to the door for service purposes. So it'll be more towards the northeast corner.
Okay.
Yeah, towards where the walkway comes, right where steps come right out of the room.
One of the steps of the process will be another public hearing.
Yep.
So it might be a good idea to take the temperature of your neighbors,
Okay.
if that's something you're agreeable.
When you say neighbors, you mean because there's really we got woods behind me, and I got the one obviously
Exactly.
the one next door is
That was the fellow that had the most amount of trouble
right
with the previous owner.
with the Pepe. On that side?
Not Pepe,
Hearing,
Because
the
I know
resident
Pepe,
that-
Pepe had an issue with him too, but I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't.
there were
Yeah.
septic
I
issues
mean,
on
he's
his
gotta
property.
notify you,
because
but-
of
Right.
the,
Yeah.
And we've had no
capacity
septic
issue.
problems since we fixed it. I
500
mean,
feet.
it's working, it's
So Eddie
golden now.
Davis would
I'm
be
referring to the resident that is behind the woods, behind your
Okay,
property.
yeah, I can approach him.
You don't have
Not
to.
a problem.
I'm just wondering, whether or not that's on your bucket list before we move forward with it. So, we're not going to be,
So
any other
he'd have-
questions?
If you can have the public hearing, then he's got to notify the neighbors via certified or something, right?
Yes.
Within, 500 feet or? So that means people across the street in the trailer,
Yeah,
Maybe,
or the trailer park owner.
owners probably.
maybe, yeah.
Capish?
Who would be responsible for notifying them? Is that
You.
normal?
Yeah.
Your engineer.
The
Mailing
thing to do, Kevin, is, actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, speak to Colleen in the, building department,
Okay,
She'll give you a list.
and she can give you the necessary information of the people that you have to send a letter to notifying of the
public
public
hearing,
hearing.
okay.
Well, the process would be that you submit the amended site plan application, new documents, then this board would set the public hearing date, and then you'd,
Then send it out,
Yeah.
okay. I have
so
a
don't worry
couple-
about that right now.
All right, just questions I have, will you be looking for the water reports, anything like that? I've got daily usage from.
It doesn't hurt to provide them, I mean, it's
Because I have them,
regulated
and
by
I
the
have
health
I have a
department.
copy of the amended liquor license too that we're permitted to
Good for the
serve
file,
liquor alcohol,
appreciate
and
that,
that's done.
yep. So it'd be fair to submit that with the amended site plan application.
Supposing a young couple comes in and they want to get married, and they don't want to hear this soft music, what would you do, just reject them?
I would recommend that they go to my other place. Yeah, it's nice to have two places, so I really, I don't want to entertain that type of stuff. I'm not, it's not my thing, and it never has been. But, like I have an upstairs that accommodates 120 people at my other restaurant, I would recommend they go there.
Well, I assume there wouldn't be any space there for dancing or anything like
No, there won't be a dance floor put in or anything like that, so. Like a wedding, I'm thinking more along the, like a chicken barbecue type of thing a day, and maybe a lobster bake or a clam bake or something along those, or fundraisers for local charities, that type of thing.
that.
Chicken dance, Italian chicken dance, we have room for that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, like I said, we're not gonna do anything out of the lines, and it would be, definitely be inside the, whatever your sound ordinance is, your time, it won't be past 10 PM or anything like that.
All right. Anybody have any other questions for Kevin? Kevin, any more for us?
I don't think so, as long as I know what you guys will be expecting for the next time we get together, and we're
Okay.
good, and I'll talk to the engineer, and we'll start hammering it out.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Barton Orchards Farm Market. If you're going to do, okay, Janice, good evening.
Your mic so we can hear the same questions that he's talking about. I don't hear you.
Tell
to
that
them.
man over there.
Oh, so can the audience hear us
The
speak?
volume, the guy there.
Anybody not be able to hear us speak in the audience? Janice, maybe you could check your mic for
Can you
us?
hear me?
Yeah? Okay. If you'd like us to repeat ourselves, sir, for anything that you missed, we will. Yep. All right.
This is out of normal procedure.
What's your question?
What we're doing, having a public discussion, is out of normal procedure because we haven't even approved sketch.
No, it's normal.
Huh?
That's up to our discretion.
Yeah, it is. You can have the public hearing, yeah.
All right, so.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you tonight?
Very good, thank
We
you.
need a motion to open it?
I was hoping that Joe, I could do a short introduction, and then we'll turn it over to Joe to explain the project to everybody, and then...
I'm sorry, what?
I said I was hoping I could do a short introduction, and then Joe
Thank
can
you.
kind of explain things, and
Thank
go
you.
from there?
Sure.
Okay. So my name is Janice Gomez Anderson, and I'm an attorney with Rodenhausen, Shaw, and Polidoro. And good evening, everyone. We're here tonight to seek the public's input on the site plan for the Barton Orchards Farm Market. The applicant is proposing a farm market with an on-premises bakery with 2 seating areas, one upstairs, one downstairs, with seating for a total of up to 47 customers, with associated parking improvements at 64 Beekman Topag Road, which is an agricultural district, it's 23, as part of the whole Barton Orchards farm. Agriculture is a permitted use in the R45 district, subject to this board's review of the exterior site layout. Further, the building inspector has determined that the proposal in front of it meets the definition of agricultural use in the town code. So agriculture is supported by the town zoning law and the comprehensive plan's open space and agricultural goals. In fact, goal number 6 of open space is to promote Beekman as an agricultural friendly community. Open Space Goal 4 includes promoting agriculturally related businesses, and Open Space Action 4.1.1 is to create local outlets and/or a farm market for local products, which is what this will be. This application fits squarely within the town's law and supports the town's vision for making agricultural operations in open space. A prior iteration of the project was before the planning board over a year ago, and some of you, I'm sure, were at the a related public hearing in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. This application has changed in several respects since that time. First, the 64 Beekman Topag Road has officially been admitted to Agricultural District 23 by Dutchess County and incorporated into the Barton Orchards Farm. Second, now that the property is located in an agricultural district, Barton Orchards has amended its application to be an agricultural use, a farm market, as permitted by the code, subject only to the site plan review, which is why we're here tonight. New York Agricultural Markets recognizes that some farm markets may have facilities like those proposed here, such as a kitchen for preparing food, farm products, as well as a place to consume the food, like the planned space here. So in a state, and a county, and a town that cherish and promote agricultural use, this is an envisioned agricultural use. So we have an approved agricultural use that we believe will have a positive impact on the town. The original vision for the farm market was a gathering place for the people of Beekman, and a convenient way for locals to swing by to get fresh produce or a gallon of cider from the farm, and not having to drive all the way up into the back, whereas the farm itself tends to draw both locals and people from other towns and other parts of the county and even farther away. Sadly, as all of you know, there was a devastating fire back in August caused by the explosion of a propane delivery truck, which left the farm without a designated location to market its farm products. At this point, Barton Orchards is still evaluating the path forward on the farm, like what's going to replace what was there on the farm for actually selling the products up back on the farm. So therefore, this farm market location has taken on a new meaning and importance, as once it's open for at least a period of time, it will be the only space at the farm designated for the direct marketing of the farm's products. So it will get some more use from visitors than originally intended. But it will still maintain its original vision and be a place where 2 or 3 local seniors can meet on a Friday morning for a cup of coffee and a cider donut, where someone who works remotely at home can get out for a cup of coffee and stretch his or her legs and grab a raspberry muffin made with raspberries from the farm, or you can stop by on your way home from picking up the kids at school to get a gallon of Barton Orchard cider. In sum, we're here tonight before the planning board to review the layout of the site or the site plan. And tonight is your opportunity to give input as to the layout of the project. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe Berger, who's the engineer on the project, who's going to show you on all of our drawings what it's going to look like. Thank you for your time tonight, Joe.
This is helpful.
Good evening, Joseph Berger, engineer for the project. Most of it was answered, but basically we have a 6.31 acre site, which is at the entrance to the larger farm. We're proposing a 4,670 square foot total building, which includes 2,534 square feet of the existing home. We're adding it to the rear of the building, so it's basically taking the existing house, flipping it and making it twice as wide, the same length, or twice as deep, but the same length along the road. So the improvement will be behind the existing building house that's there right now. We're going to gain access off the existing drive that goes up to the existing farm and create a parking lot with the cars. The proposal we have in front of you is for 44 spaces, which wraps around from the west to the south, where we're going to also provide for electrical vehicle charging stations. The site's going to be serviced by a subsurface sewage disposal system that will be on the north side between the building and the existing drive, and utilize an existing well that's found in the south, pretty much in the south corner, that was there, that fed the house. So we're using that existing well. We also have before the board an alternative layout that the board asked us to look at, which would remove a row of parking on the south side to minimize how much parking is next to the neighbors, reducing the proposal from 44 spaces to 35 spaces. But pretty much the layout between the primary one and the alternative is to reduce the reduction of the 8 spaces right there. We're proposing to keep everything out of the 100-foot buffer, scenic buffer, which runs along Beekman Road. We're staying out of there. The existing drive to the site runs through that buffer. That will be abandoned, so there won't be any access directly out onto Beekman, only through the internal road. We're adding I believe to be a significant number of new trees between the site and the Beekman Road, and between the proposed building and the property to what would be the westerly side. The property runs more northeast, southwest, but the westerly side to keep the buffer between this use and the existing residential homes found on that side. Hours of operation will be 6 to 10 Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 on weekends and on holidays. That's currently pretty much it. We will have, for the inside, we'll have 5 employees plus the number of 47 patrons. Hopefully will come in and room for them to seat. Inside we will have a 480 square foot bakery, a sitting area for 862 square feet, which will include a sitting area downstairs and upstairs, a produce area of 480 square feet on the first floor in the front, and the kitchen, cooler, and freezer will be pretty much the new expansion. The area in the back where we're building will be the kitchen, the cooler, and the freezer. So that's pretty much to make out. We provided a rough floor plan to the planning board in our last submission, so they can see the rough layout where everything was going to be. The current house has a handicapped ramp going up to it. We'll continue to use that ramp and fix it up. It's a little old. We're also going to provide a handicap ramp and a walkway all the way over from the building to the entrance road to encourage people from the neighborhood to walk on up the entrance and walk on into it so they don't have to drive. We want it to be a community, a place for people who live nearby to go for hopefully a short stroll, end up there, have a coffee and a donut, or some apple pie. I love the apple pie they have on the other place, and then stay. They put your Wi-Fi there so they can sit. But mainly, it's not a restaurant. It's not a diner. You're gonna come there. It's a place to buy your donut, buy your crumb cake, sit down on a nice chair with a couple friends or make some new friends, and stay there for a couple minutes and then leave. But it's a combination meeting place plus farm market. That's basically what it is. The existing house will stay the way it looks right now from the road. The rear building that we're putting in will mimic the style and the color of the existing house. It will only be one floor, 9 foot tall, for the kitchen. So the roof line will go from the current rear straight down with the less of a slope than the steep slope it is now, which is 14 feet tall down to 9 feet, so it's sloped down, but it will have the same outside wood, same color, same texture, and look, as much close to the style of the existing house. We're not looking to change the house from what it is right now. And with that, I'll entertain questions or stand around for clarification as needed.
I think at this point, what I'd like to do, if the board agrees, is to open the public hearing. All right?
All right, do we need a motion?
I do, yes.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the proposal of Barton Orchards.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, for the record, the planning department has told me that the certified mailings were done completely and the legal ad in the Poughkeepsie Journal was sufficient.
Okay, thank you. Just some rules for public hearings. The sunshine laws are in place, and the purpose behind the hearing is so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. Anybody from any part of our country can come and speak at a public hearing. Don't have to be somebody in the area. I generally permit 3 minutes. I don't keep a timer running. With that said, try to be concise. Redundancy is something that often happens, but note that we are keeping track of your comments here. I will permit some discussion with board members. All right, if the board members have a question, they'll ask. So you'll need to approach the podium, speak in your name and your address, and we'll move on from there. So the public hearing is now open. Who would like to be the first? Oh, sorry, Drew. Mr. Crane raised his hand first. All right. Okay.
Bill Crane, 254 Gardner Hollow Road. The applicant mentioned that he's going to be planting trees. Is he cutting down any trees?
On the other side.
The plan reflects tree cuttings that he intends to make over by the septic area. Yeah, and then some were already cut down in the buffer area as well.
Some have been cut down.
Yeah.
Can you turn that page on?
Quickly mention,
That removals?
the planning board usually tolerates replacing trees when trees are cut down, but I don't feel you can really replace trees. I mean, trees, as they get older, they get more cavities. They're homes for wildlife, and homes for bees, which are linchpin in species. The older the trees, if you're cutting down older trees, they're really not replaceable. And the wildlife knows that. As old trees get older, they decompose, they improve the soil, they go back into the soil. It's part of nature's cycle. So you can't just cut them down. There's even research that trees form communities where they feed each other and they warn each other with pests are approaching. So we cut down some trees, you hurt other trees. They're not replaceable. So I have a concern about that. And I have a concern about the parking. Is the parking going to be asphalt, or is it going to be some earthen surface?
Millings on the front part of the building, and then on the right side there are pavers that they originally.
Pavers?
Yeah. Now, just so everybody understands, sketch has not been approved yet. All right. So nothing is set in stone at this point.
Okay. It's not set in stone that I'd like to encourage you to encourage the applicant. The attorney mentioned that they're trying to conform to the comprehensive plan, which the main principle of which is to preserve the rural character of our town. I would suggest that you try to keep it as natural surface, especially the way they describe the people coming and going, just dropping by. If you can reduce the asphalt, it just is a much nicer feel. And it also reduces non-point source pollution. If there's asphalt pollutants, just run right into the drains and into the water. If they could get absorbed by earth surfaces, some sort of earthen surfaces, pavers is an approach, but it would be nice to have a really nice kind of dirt surface or some sort of crushed stone or something like that. Those are my two concerns are the trees and the pavement.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Drew?
Good evening, board. My name is Drew Bellantone. I live at 17 Green Street. Chair, I did have a couple questions about the plan. Should I ask them now or later?
What we'll do is we'll make some notes.
Okay.
I'll address significant ones if you want to bring those up now. The rest I'll make notes of, and then
Off the bat, a couple dimensions on light posts. They were a little ambiguous on the plans, between 14, 12. There was actually two different numbers on the same plan. What is the height of these things that, as stated on the plans right now?
Joe, what is the height of the lamp posts themselves and the distribution of the light? 14 feet is the height.
Okay. Our residence abuts the recently purchased property and residence at what used to be 64 Beekman Polkwig Road. We're fully aware of the farm's prerogative to expand down to this former residence and transform it into a retail store. That being said, the town needs to strongly protect its taxpayers who will be affected by this transition, hugely. The gentleman was just talking about pollutants in runoff. Our properties are at a lower level than where the farm is, just to begin with. We greatly appreciate the town. We appreciate the town's planning board doing their due diligence by coming to our side of the proverbial fence to witness firsthand how this retail market and all the operations associated with it will affect Peter's neighbors' quality of life. 2 years ago, there was a quiet lived-in home there with a dense natural barrier between our properties. These trees provided extensive screening and privacy, but almost 2 years ago now, half of these trees were cut down. Despite what Peter has said about the trees being overcome by old pieces of cement foundation around them, most were alive and thriving and provided heavy concealing foliage. Currently, especially between November and April, half of the year, our backyards, living rooms, and bedrooms are now fish bowls. Again, there was a residence there, which now will expand it to close to 5,000 square foot retail establishment. We feel those trees should be replaced and then some. Vehicles and trucks, large trucks, will be traveling to this store from the main driveway straight towards our homes. We argue for an 8 to 10 foot fence higher than the proposed 6 foot on the plans to block out vehicles and headlights from our residences. A store open until 10 o'clock at night, an illuminated parking lot, over 30 parking spaces, which I find odd because the business on Knoxon Road, which is a commercial area, has less than 20. The noise, the air pollution, increased garbage on Beekman Polkway Road, these are all not conducive to a peaceful residential area. We need your help to mitigate these issues as much as possible, board. We're pleading to this planning board to put yourselves in our shoes and require this business to do what is right by its new neighbors to keep the peace and tranquility in our neighborhood. That's all I got.
Thank you, Drew.
Thanks for the work that the board has been putting into this. It's much appreciated. Anybody have a question for me?
Not at this point. Thank you, Drew. Who would like to speak next? Sir, in the green jacket? Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board and the public. I am a retiree. Yes?
If you could just state your name and address.
Oh, yes. My name is Daniel Daly, 815 Beekman Road.
Thank you, Mr. Daly.
And I've been living up here after retirement for about 20 years now. And I must say, when the grandkids come up to visit, it's such a great place to bring them over to the farm for them to see some, live animals. And they've always been a great neighbor to me, and I respect, what they bring to our neighborhood. During COVID, I'm a retiree from the fire department. I have some underlying issues from 9/11, and besides being in my 70s, so I couldn't go into the supermarkets, and they had deliveries they would come to our house and bring us some of their fresh goods that they made there. And my wife used to go over there, and the stores would be empty, and they were just very, very good neighbors. And I know there's issues that I can't speak to regarding living right next door, but I don't think we could have a more positive neighbor in our community for what we want to have this community for. To be a country area where you can see some live animals, and where it's, you can go up to the corner and have that cup of coffee and sit around and talk to neighbors. So it's not very technical what I have to say, but it's, I'm here, and I've always respected what they do up there, and I think they bring a lot to our community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Please, sir. Thank you.
I'm Dan Duda, 23 Osborne Glen, a neighbor. And when I look at how the area has expanded over the years, the last 20, 30 years, you have Osborne Glen right on Polkway Road. When you're talking about a piece of property that has one house on it, if you're going to use that land for anything, that's a more beneficial way than to have somebody expand that property in later years. I don't see any objection to the community or the traffic or the environment when you have one house, and all you're going to have for that house, frankly, I think, is a social involvement of the neighbors. I think we're going to be using that more than people coming from other parts of the state or from the city on the weekends. I think we're going to be using that as an asset for us because we can socialize in there and enjoy it. So I think it's a positive for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Javier, okay, thank you. Sorry.
Good evening, Javier Teborga, 19 Bush Street Lane, the Commons and Dalton Farms. Even though I understand what the project and the intention of it is, I have to say that the gentleman before that, Bart Norchurch, was all these years, maybe 20 years I'm living around here. He's been a great neighbor. Although we all had our complaints about the dust and the full fees of this, that, but you know, most of our kids went to work there in their younger years. And we all have a destination, and I think that that is pretty important. And although I am, you know, kind of linked to the same business of the design part of it, perhaps the other gentleman was talking about pollution, and he's completely right. I think that the lights of those cars and the light poles there on that side of the road will directly be seen by houses like mine, right? It's directly on the bottom of the hill. Actually, my backyard, it just goes, I can see that house from it. Perhaps the solution is to I don't know, talk to the engineer here, maybe it's to flip the design, right? So I see that maybe the addition of the house could be done to the front and the parking lot being thrown to the back. So now the cars are parking behind the house and pointing their headlights back to the farm instead of to Beekman Road. Those are my 2 cents. You know, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taborga. And Mr. Taborga is an architect licensed in New York as well, for those who don't know him.
Come on up. You've been trying ever since the meeting
Please,
started.
sir. I'm sorry. Write this. You. Yeah. Thank you for your patience.
My name is Doug McConnell. I live at 23 Green Street. I'm a neighbor of the building that they're turning into the farm market. And I moved up here 23 years ago to a residential area. And at that time, that house was occupied by 2 elderly people, and which had a front yard and the woods all in the back. So as Drew said earlier, that, you know, it was pretty much residential. So with the project in place, my new residential view from my bedroom and my bathroom is going to be a parking lot with some 30-something cars. I'll see rooftops. It's going to be a marketplace. It's going to be a donut factory. I'm going to see a dumpster. There's a dumpster in the back there directly. My bedroom will be overlooking the dumpster. And an electrical post that's about 6 feet square. I have concerns about that, and hopefully, I think there was some motions maybe to move those somewhere else on the property. My other concerns are the operating hours, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That means in the wintertime, we're going to have these lights going all day long. I don't know how we're going to sleep. I'm sure the hours, somebody's got to be there before 6 p.m. if that's the operational time, and somebody's going to be there after 10. So in the winter, it's going to be dark, morning and night. That means those lights are going to be on. And that concerns me, and my wife and I sleeping and resting. It's just, it's a problem. And I think one gentleman said something about that before. The headlights, as Drew also mentioned, coming into the driveway, that's going to be annoying. I mean, right now, with the trees down that they took down, I can see the lights coming from the farm and coming on County Road 7 all night long. I see the cars and the fire trucks, the ambulances and everything. This is going to be worse because this is going to be in the background. Since they're going to manufacture or cook there, is there going to be propane tank there? I'm very concerned about that. With the event that happened up in the hill there earlier last year, we were evacuated from my house for a day and told we couldn't come back until that was resolved. So I don't see in the plans where there's any propane or natural gas being used.
Joe, maybe that's an important one to answer at this point.
There will be propane, but we're talking a much smaller size.
And is it reflected on the plan? It's not yet. Okay.
Okay, good.
May I just say that
I'm sorry.
May I just say that the fire that happened had nothing to do with propane tanks attached to the delivery truck, which any house.
Regardless, they were there to do something with that propane tank. And my house is gonna be very close to that. Whether on the east side or the west side.
Required that the tank be buried?
Do I use it? Yeah, I use it for my bar, I grew up.
Yeah.
We couldn't require it.
The lamps for parking, that was brought up. On the plan, it says all lighting will be 12 feet high. And then the lamp diagram next to it says it's 14 feet. You're saying it's 14 feet now?
If you'll, just to explain the rules, if you could speak to me or the board, just, you didn't do anything wrong. I loosened the rules a bit to answer significant questions that I'll direct the engineer or the attorney to answer.
Yeah. Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
The noise of the delivery trucks. I mean, if they're diesel, they're gonna be all the way through. The little tractors that come down from the farm all day long, back and forth, back and forth. We see that now. And of course, there's the dumpster. Backing up to either bring the delivery or to take the old one away. I noticed also the trees. The tree specifications, the spruces and the cedars. Minimum bottom dimension, 3 inches. Height no less than 6 inches. I'm 73 years old. I'll never see these trees grow if they put in a minimal size. And that's basically it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Please.
My name is John Leono, 15 Osborne Glen. As that man pointed out before, Peter is not, during COVID, I was one of those delivery people that delivered to all of the people that couldn't get out of their houses. And Peter made sure that the prices were good and the products were good. He only brings in the quality stuff. And he made sure that everybody that made an order got an order. And if they didn't have money, there was a discount on it. Okay? Peter is not the type of person that's going to come in here and just roll over everybody and destroy everything. He happens to be one of the biggest donators of money to the marching band for the Arlington High School. He's a very thoughtful, concerned person, and he doesn't want to open up something that's just going to throw everybody into a tizzy. Anybody that has him, I'm sure he'll adjust whatever he has to adjust, and he'll make everybody else feel comfortable in this area. That's just the kind of person that he is. Okay? And that farm has been in his family forever. He thinks the most of it. All right? So I just figured I had to say that.
Thank you, sir. Oh, Beth. All right. And I'll get to you next, sir. Hi, Beth.
Hi, my name is Beth Bellantone. I live at 17 Green Street, which is directly abutting the property in question. I just want to say to the board, thank you for being here, being present, and really taking our concerns into account for this. We know this is going to happen, but we do want to try to drive home some points. And to that order, I have 10 things I would like to request that you guys consider when reviewing these plans. Before I go into them, I just want to say that we did get these plans through the Freedom of Information Law that were filed with the town, so none of this is hearsay. There was some question as to my credibility online, so I just want to say that we have poured over hundreds of pages of documents to get the information that we have. So with that, I would like to just start with my 10 bullet points. Number 1, we would like the dumpster to be moved. The current plan has the dumpster very close to our property border. As you can imagine, the dumpster of a food market, will contain a lot of food waste, which will attract multitudes of animals and insects, which will then endanger our own properties with the disease and filth that come with them. 2, there is currently a 6-foot fence proposed along the western border. We request that this fence be higher, a minimum of 8 feet, in order to further mitigate the light, noise, and carbon pollution disrupting our health and comfort.
Beth, could you repeat the height that you'd prefer?
I said a minimum of 8 feet.
Of 8, thank you.
Perhaps you could give us your points?
I'm making the notes down, yeah, thank you.
Oh, I can
Yeah,
give these.
thank
That'll
you.
be great, yeah.
Number 3, we would like more trees. They do have trees. They have some white cypress that are proposed on there. They're pretty far apart. We did some research, and we would like to request that fuchsia green giant trees be placed there, spaced no more than 5 feet on center. These are sturdy and adaptable evergreens that will fill in quickly to replace the privacy we lost when more than half of the grove was removed in May of 2021. 4, a lesser amount of parking spots. The current plan, I had 44, but I guess I just heard now it's 35. But it still exceeds any other business of similar size in the area. His own market on Knoxon Road has less than 20 parking spots. 5, we request that curbing be added to the driveway and parking lots to contain the millings and assist with drainage. 6, we request that the hours of operation are I'm sorry, I'm trying to take notes too, so am I talking too fast? I tend to do that.
While she's making her notes, Beth, you were speaking about a variety of tree. You said I got 5 feet apart.
Fuchsia green
Yeah,
giant.
fuchsia green giant.
Arborvitae.
Arborvitaes, okay.
Number 5, we request that curbing be added to the driveway and parking lots to contain the millings and assist with drainage. 6, we request that the hours of operation be substantially shortened. The current proposal of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. will seriously impinge on our health and well-being, with vehicles and pollution entering and exiting for over 16 hours per day. More reasonable hours would be 9 to 5. Number 7, on that note, we would also request that time restrictions be placed on delivery trucks. As the parking lot is proposed, all trucks entering and exiting will necessarily reverse, causing a lot of sound pollution, not to mention the unavoidable air pollution. We also request that the loading zone be moved to the eastern side of the facility. 8, we request that the EV stations be moved from where it has already been built to the other side of the facility to mitigate light and noise pollution adjacent to our property. 9, regarding those EV stations, we request that hours of use are put into place in order to protect our privacy and welfare. Once regular daytime hours are established, we request appropriate signage and enforcement to be in place. And 10, there's currently nothing in the plans for outdoor seating area. We request that this be continuously enforced for our safety. Thank you again for your time and attention and the concerns for our health, safety, and well-being.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you. Sure, thank you.
That is like the first draft.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Any of the board members like to review these? Can
That's
pass-
fine.
Would you
No,
you
we've
good?
heard it.
Okay, and I noted. Sir?
Good evening, Joe Carmen from 17 Wheeler Court. I moved back up to Dutchess County with my family, my wife, and my 3 dogs to, be in a great community like Beekman. Barton Orchards is a great place to go for your family, your kids, your dogs. There's so much you can do. I think we should rally behind, Pete Barton. He's been here for generations. All he wants to do is to provide back to the community, to give you a place to socialize. We haven't done that in 3 years. If you forget that. COVID has destroyed that. I think there's a lot of good points here. I think the planning board would definitely take into consideration. I don't think, all these, some a little obscured, but there are some good points. Barton's a huge contributor to the community, to support and Firehouse, I'm a member of. He's always about giving back. Always, got a smile on his face. He wants to see people to have fun. He has great events. He's a sponsor, Pride, people being open and, just having fun. We talk about taking trees down, but, we don't talk about all the trees we take down for developments, for new houses, for all these, large homes they want to build. We don't talk about that. And I think we should start talking about that because, Beekman is starting to look like, Fishkill or, other surrounding larger LaGrange. And I didn't move here for that. I moved here to get away from Westchester, where I didn't want to be in the first place, but that was because of my parents. But regardless, this is a quiet community, and I think the hours of operations aren't too crazy. I mean, it's not like he's playing loud music. He's not gonna have crazy, events. I mean, this is a place to buy your groceries, buy fresh produce, get a coffee, chit chat with some local neighbors, which maybe we should do one day. But at the end of the day, we should support local businesses and someone who's been here for generations, because I hate to see that go and see Beekman go. So I appreciate the time and thank you for the board.
Thank you. Is there another member?
How you doing? My name is Joe Mercurio. I live at 21 Ferris Glen. Just to counter a little bit of what the gentleman was just saying, I live right at the very end of the Commons, and from my house, I love Beekman, I love Barton, it's a great place. I can hear every bit of music that's played. I can hear every conversation from the bar that they have up there. And one faithful night in June, they set off fireworks at 10 o'clock at night until 10:25. And I have 3 young children who were screaming their faces off, terrified because of what was going on. Now, not saying this is going to happen here. It's a market. I understand. Okay? The hours of operation, okay, I'm a safety professional. I'm a certified safety professional. I work down in Manhattan. I understand noise mitigation and all these things that are going on. 6 to 10 in this neighborhood, my kids wake up to the garbage truck once a week. We're going to have all of these trucks coming in at 6 a.m., whether it's deliveries in the morning or at night, whatever they decide their schedule is going to be, the noise will be a problem. I like the market idea. I like the coffee idea. It's a fantastic idea. However, the hours with what this neighborhood is supposed to be, the hours don't work. So everybody who had points about the hours, I agree with. The market sounds like a fantastic idea, but when something gets put there with the operations they already have, it's not only going to be used for that. So we should find out also what it's going to be used for, what their intentions are with that going forward, with the hours being from 6 to 10 that they proposed already. Because I know it's not just nobody's having coffee at 9:55 at night to go sit down somewhere. So that's something that I would like to know as well. That's all I got. Thank you.
Janice, the hours are 6 to 10, is that correct?
We're just trying to match what we allow by code.
So 6 to 10, because I've seen some other numbers elsewhere on the document. So I'm just trying to.
I don't have a definition on that, and that's what is allowed to do.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the actual plan to say.
The new store opens at 6, but is done by 7.
Okay. And there's any ambiguity about the cidery operating on that property? Is there any I'm not phrasing my question right. Is there going to be a cidery on the property?
What do you mean by that?
Tasting of cider, a bar?
Except the tap room up on the back, I don't know. Yeah, so maybe it's inside. I have to answer, we'll get back to it now.
Okay, thank you.
Because I want to answer it.
Yeah. I've seen it, hours of operation, and whether or not cider will be sold for consumption at the market or in the cafe.
I thought that when he came before us before, he mentioned that he might possibly want to do a brewery.
He's going to ferment in his warehouse, from what I remember. But I'm not sure what his intentions are as far as consumption in the market.
Didn't you talk about
Right.
cider? Cider. Yeah,
Hard cider.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hard cider, right, yeah. All right. Please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Brooks. I live at 20 Ferris Glen in the Commons. My husband, Charles Brooks, and I moved to Dalton Farm 23 years ago, and we previously expressed our interest in Mr. Barton's farm stand a little over a year ago at the zoning board meeting. We are still very much interested in seeing this come to fruition. A farm stand would significantly benefit our community. In fact, they benefit so many communities. It would be a place where we could purchase fresh fruit, vegetables, eggs, milk, small bite to eat, coffee, and socialize with neighbors. I very much miss the establishment that was down by the Four Corners in Beekman. I believe it was called the Clove Valley Deli.
Yes.
There was seating there. You could get a cup of coffee. My husband and I used to walk there back and forth on Sundays or whenever we could, and that just does not exist in our community anymore. Again, I just really feel like it would be very beneficial to the community. We actually really do love Barton Orchards. Our family has made treasured memories there. We have family that come in periodically throughout the course of the year, and they beg us to go up there for a variety of different reasons, whether it's for the entertainment, farm animals, or whatnot. We have 2 children. Both of our children have worked there, and Mr. Barton has treated them very well, and they've learned a good work ethic, and we very much appreciate that was available to them because, you know, we are pretty far from, you know, Route 9 or other places where perhaps they could have gotten employment. I will say I've heard a lot of the concerns tonight, and some of those concerns I've witnessed firsthand myself. I have been stuck in traffic myself. I have abandoned my own vehicle and walked home when there was too much traffic. However, Mr. Barton did address that, and he enhanced his own parking, and it's been years since I've experienced that type of situation. I do hear music sometimes. I do love the fireworks. They don't happen often, but I think to myself, I grew up in Putnam Valley. It was the country. It's fireworks. It's like, to me, it's spectacular. But I do understand concerns about pets and children. 10 o'clock at night probably is too late. With all those, issues, I keep thinking in the back of my mind, folks, it's a farm. We live in the country. It's beautiful. That's all I keep thinking. So I hope that the board will take a lot of the concerns of the residents of the community very seriously. I do expect that Mr. Barton will as well. Someone talked about his credibility. My husband and I have actually gotten to know him. He has hosted, my husband is a retired teacher. He's hosted his class up at the farm, and so we've built, a small relationship there, and he does seem very concerned about giving back to the community. So I believe firmly that between this planning board and Mr. Barton, that you can come up with some solutions for the concerns, whether it's putting in the pine trees, putting in the plantings, the fence, moving the dumpster, addressing the parking, the lighting, whatever the case may be. So just to reiterate, again, I am for the farm stand. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. And just so the public knows, the state approves the use of that land for a farm market. All right. We're not here to discuss whether or not the farm market can happen or not, we're here to discuss the site plan. That's our scope. The purpose of my question about the citery was because it seems to go with the hours of operation. Right? If I wasn't clear about that, though. I just wanted to mention that. That was why I brought it up. Who's next? Who'd like to approach the podium next?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have some thoughts on the site plan. I don't know whether it's appropriate to speak now.
Yeah, it might be. Is there anybody who, Scott? Hey, ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. You'll be up. Would you like to go? Yeah. He's a gentleman. Scott will let you. Yeah.
I wasn't going to get up, but I am so inspired by this community. I've been up here, well, we're 8 years married to that fine man in the green coat. And Barton's is a fabulous place for us and our family. And I hear all the concerns, but I can say one thing personally, that Peter is got the greatest heart, and that I believe that he will make it work for everyone. For every problem, there's a solution. And when I came up here, I love coffee. I love coffee. And I'm like, where is there a place where I can sit down and have a cup of coffee? There's no place for me to have a cup of coffee. I live on 815 Beekman Road. There's no place to go. Like, I have to go to Beacon, or I have to go to Cold Spring. And it's so exciting, the thought of being able to go sit down and have a cup of coffee. And I know that they would do a really fabulous job. And so I just wanted to say that, and that my wish is that it works for everyone. Thank you.
I haven't had coffee in 3 months. I think you might have caused me to fall off the wagon. A little Sambuca, an espresso, with a cannoli. Oh, God. Scott, please. Thank you.
Scott Berardo, I live on Bush Creek Lane in the Commons. I don't begrudge Peter making any money or Mr. Barton making any money. I don't think and I don't think anybody here is saying that this is a bad idea per se for him and his business. I think the idea is that you, by your own admission, said, the engineer and the lawyer, by their own admission, said, this is a spot to go for 4 or 5 minutes, 6 minutes to get a cup of coffee and hang out with friends. I don't see the need for 35 parking spots if that's only going to be 5 or 6 minutes. It sounds like a quick in and out and let's go. My other concern is that we have to consider a road survey, that we have to make sure that the traffic on the road is not going to be so that we who live in that area who only have one entrance into our common area can get in and out of our houses without being disrupted by what's going on here. And if you're going to do it before, like, October, it kind of makes no sense. I mean, I think we're going to have to do it at his peak season and see what traffic would be like, or resemble what it would be like when this business opens up. So like I said, I don't begrudge him making anything. I think he does a lot for the community. He does. But I would not be considered neighborly if I destroyed if I took down trees and did not offer to make my family or my neighbors' houses livable like it was before. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to speak?
No, this is...
Yes, ma'am, please.
My name is Amy Moore. I live at 56 Reynolds Road. I have lived in Oakley for 15 and a half years. I understand that Peter is great to the community and offers a lot of things. When I moved here, it was a farm. It was $2 to enter the farm. It has grown exponentially. There's been extra buildings. There's the tap room. It just has gotten bigger and bigger. Now we're getting bigger again, and my concern is that this town, everyone's like, oh, it's so quaint, it's so country, and he's getting bigger and bigger. He used to host an event for all of the Dalton Farms, the Commons. The Meadows never really got invited till sort of the end because they didn't realize we weren't part of Dalton Farms. Had this big spread, then open bar, shrimp cocktail, and then the next year it got smaller, and the next year it got smaller, and then it was, oh, it's COVID, so we can't do it.
understandable, but I can't afford to go there. I don't know what the entry fee is, but someone told me it was $22 a person. So I appreciate the fact that he's great to the community and that he is very helpful, and I'm not begrudging that. It's great that his business has grown and grown and grown. My concern is, at what point does that stop? I mean, are we gonna take, you know, we've added the treetop adventures, we've added the pets, we've added extra parking. Like, at what point are we gonna run out of space? So I think that those are my concerns.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak? So at this point, the hearing will be open. If anybody who hasn't spoke would like to speak, feel free. We're going to enter into a discussion phase here amongst us.
I want to speak.
Exactly, and that's why I knew that. I knew that, and the floor is yours, sir. This is Mr. Peter Poltrak, longtime resident and arborist by trade.
I have a problem with the plan as presented, and this is just sketch, which should mean that the proposal is open to discussion. All right. As you see on the screen, you would be coming in from Barton's Laneway and coming into the facility. Now, those of you that are familiar with driving on Beekman Road and headed in this direction, you should be very much aware of the aesthetics of the existing house as it exists right now. It's beautiful. Personally, I'd like to see that maintained that way. If, as proposed, there's parking in front, that's going to screen that house, and really you're not going to see it, depending upon the time of day and the density of the parking, and if a lot of trees and so on have to be planted between Beekman Polkway Road and the house for scenic view. You know, so I'm a little skeptical about this. This is the east end of the property, and it's proposed that you would enter the road to the orchard and then come in the drive and come into the house. And park over, obviously here, and on this, between the house and Green Street. I think everything should be flipped. I think that these trees that are in this area between the old road and Beekman Polkway be maintained. The trees that are between his entrance and house, take those out. Make that area for parking so that there is no parking in the front of the house. There's no parking on this side of the house. And flip everything. The handicap ramp, all that is just a wooden ramp. Take it out, put it over on the other side of the house. Have your handicap parking and your electrical vehicle parking, and basically all of your parking in this area between the farm lane and the farm market. And that's what I'm throwing out to the engineer, and as is proposed, I think you need to make changes.
And that, Pete, is a good idea, because the septic is going to be going over in that area where those trees are anyway. Is that correct? Are you talking about the same spot?
Well, what if you?
Yeah.
I think John, I think you should maintain trees between the old road and the new road.
Right.
But there's a cluster of trees between the old road and the uphill end of the property.
Right.
Okay, and those are the trees that I'm thinking about, I'm suggesting be removed, and all the parking be in this area between the house and his laneway, and actually it could be on the other side of the laneway. It's all part of the farm. As the engineer has presented this at this point, personally, I'm against it, and I'm against it because I think that it destroys the beauty of that house offers to this area.
Those are strong points.
And just so that you know, John and I looked at the property together, and there's an old foundation, and I happen to remember that was a barn, and in the 60s and 70s, Franklin put hay in that barn.
Yes.
Interesting. Is there
So
are you?
I want the board to consider the adjustments that I have suggested.
Thank you, Peter. Is there another member who'd like to comment on the plan as it is? Any of the public's comments?
One of your things.
Oh, gotcha. I agree with Peter. I think preserving the beauty of that house, I mean, it's gorgeous, and redesigning it so the impact of the parking is not going to affect the neighbors. I don't think that's a big ask.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right.
Do you want me to open it?
Is there another member interested in
You got
speaking?
it? Okay.
Yeah, I'll make some comments. Thank you all for making your comments tonight. It was actually a very good public hearing. I heard a lot of good things said tonight. I didn't hear one person say that this action shouldn't happen at all. And I heard some very reasonable requests, I think. If from his apparent supporters, Peter, a lot of us know Peter, and he's got very good character. And here's a chance to prove if he's a good neighbor, he might listen to what the neighbors are saying. Some of you guys love the fireworks and don't have any problems with the operation. Some of us just feel indifferent about it. They just want peace. They want to live in their house in peace. They don't want to have to subscribe to be a patron to it or other establishments, but they just sort of want peace. And I don't begrudge them that either. I think everyone should have a right, or everyone does have a right, to have a peaceful enjoyment of their residence. So I'm not sure I agree with Peter. I respectfully disagree. If we move parking to the other side of the house, I think you're going to have a much larger impact to the grove of trees that's there. And the way the parking was designed was to minimize that impact to trees. I think when you run the numbers after you do that layout, you'll find, and plus it's on a sloped area, you'll find you're going to have more trees being removed, and the overall impact to the environment will be more. But that being said, I do think that the applicant should consider a reduction in the parking to something a little more reasonable and more in character with the rural character of our town, and also consider more of a pervious type of system like gravel. You know, asphalt millings is pretty much the same runoff coefficient as asphalt, and so
That's a good point.
I would request that they consider more of like a gravel And I think that's more consistent with a rural kind of farm market, if we want to call this a farm market. We want to try to make it look like a farm market. But that's just my opinion.
Rob, could you speak to one of the comments, being that you brought up gravel, which I think is a smart idea, less runoff and less pollutants. Beth, I believe, mentioned the curbing.
Well, I mean, if you went to a more pervious kind of pavement, you wouldn't need the curbing, because you'd have water infiltrating directly into the ground.
Rob's a landscape architect, so you know.
So, you know, as far as what curbing does is it directs the drainage to a single point, and they're dealing with it. There's definitely a bioretention basin, and they're definitely dealing with drainage in the plan. So I just think that it's more in character with a farmer to use gravel. Also, you know, I would tend to agree with adding more trees on the side of the property. He's made a nice attempt to add trees in the current plan, but I definitely could see more trees would give that buffer, you know, more of an instant buffer for the neighbors that have to live right next to the operation. After all, they're the ones who are going to receive the most impact to the improvement. So, and that's basically what I have to say.
Right. So, Jason, are you interested in?
Yeah. I'm only going to mention a couple items. I really want to just keep things concise for just the sake that it's 8:30 at night and this has been going. A lot of feedback about the dumpster. I think that's self-explanatory. The only comments I have about the road surface is for those folks that are in wheelchairs or need handicap accessibility, you need pavement. I don't know if any of you have tried to wheel a wheelchair through gravel. It's ridiculously hard. Yeah. As far as again, some of the concessions, I think a lot of good points again were brought up tonight. The height of the trees, trying to mitigate the headlights and a lot of that other stuff. Again, I think a lot of the feedback has been positive about the proposal. I think there's a couple of things that could be considered. The other thing that kept coming up repeatedly were the hours. I really think that that's something we really need to be specific with and just try to put people's mind at ease. The visual with the garbage truck backing up and the beeping, that was spot on. I mean, that really does put things to a point for everyone here that's dealt with royal karting once a week. So
Jason, the sound effect was good.
Yeah. So
I did. I thought it was excellent.
I just want to put everybody's mind at ease, though. Like, there was a lot of time put in, people going to the property to try to see what could work, what would be least impactful. This guy with impact and trees and everything is, I mean, I trust him to design any piece of property ever. So there was a lot of time put into that. So again, just trying to see what we can come up for a fair balance for everybody.
So, just to provide some clear direction, Joe, would you like to speak about any of these comments?
If I could before, and then
thank you.
Certainly ask for your direction.
Right.
I think it's important at this point, I didn't bring it up earlier, but with all the comments on landscaping and screening, it's important to note that the neighbors to the west have a required buffer on their property from their subdivision, which was cleared and isn't there. In fact, the one neighbor has encroached over 8 feet with their lawn onto Mr. Barton's property, removing buffer that would have been there. So I just wanted to put that in the record so the board understood that when they consider their consideration, that we do want to provide buffer, but sometimes the situations there now is a little bit self-created with the lack of the buffer that should have been there, and more importantly, removal of 8 feet of our buffer from our site that would have been there had it not been removed for the entire length of the property. So we'll try to embrace and do some more landscaping. Look at what you're saying. I do want to reiterate what Bob said about the trees.
If I may just, while you're on the buffer, just to stay on point.
Okay.
Don't mean to cut you off. But so there's the foundation is on Mr. Barton's side, right?
Which
The old foundation.
That old foundation is on,
Yeah.
it's on the one plan.
And I noticed the gradings. Is his intention to remove that or bury it?
Just leave it as it is.
Leave it as it is. Okay.
That's an area that's not being touched.
Okay.
I think it should be preserved as it is. It's an old
Okay.
foundation. It's not hurting anything. It's a piece of history, so to speak.
Okay.
I think your swale might be running through it, just so you know.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
You might need to take a look at that.
Well, we
Because I know
located
only a
it-
piece
we
of the
located after
foundation.
that.
Yeah.
I located when I did the site survey, and an alternative, which is the site that we showed that the swale was done before we did the site survey, would stake out and locate it. The alternative came back where we moved things. So knowing this is a sketch plan, our intent was not to disturb that foundation.
Okay.
And so the board knows when I staked out the property line was when I was able to locate the entire thing.
Right.
The entire foundation.
And when
I
I
was then adjusted within the alternative design.
Right, I saw that line there, and in regards to the encroachment on the buffer that you're alleging the neighbors, that's a code enforcement issue, and the board, will not comment on that or take that into our. Okay, so there's an abandoned fence. It looked like an old garden. That is in the buffer area on Mr. Barton's side. Old tree fall that was man-made, and some debris and trash. What's Mr. Barton's intention regarding that? Because I think we've got to return it back to nature. It's been manipulated and abused over the years.
We're more than happy to clean it up. If that was stuff done by the neighbors, we're more than happy to go in that area and clean it up.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know who put it there. Right. But I'm just wondering, it's now Mr. Barton's. Faye, would you like me to get you some water or anything?
No, I'm good,
Are you
thanks.
okay?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
More than happy to clean that up at that point.
Okay.
A lot of that, there's a lot of debris that's been pushed onto the Barton property from the neighbors on that side, and we're more than happy to clean up all that debris.
Yeah, I can. I really don't want to make accusations, and I'm not trying to allege fault. My purpose is to just, now that he owns it, to find out what his intentions are. I think the dumpster is a no-brainer, all right? That probably should go on the other side of the building. It should go on the other side of the building. I think the board and the public would appreciate that.
I agree.
So if you're gonna go on the other side of the building with the dumpster, why not put the parking over there?
Well, so I'll talk about that, Pete, and I'm wondering whether or not it would be actually necessary to remove that stand of trees here that you were pointing to.
Now, most of those trees are the large ones. There's many smaller trees that we didn't
Right.
locate. That's a very forested area, and you would lose all of it.
This area?
You'd lose that entire thing all the way up.
That
the
area,
side. Yeah.
okay, so what you're saying is you can't add some parking here and here? And I have that power.
Hey, what the hell, Rob? What'd you do?
My wife says I'm high energy.
Oh, God.
So what I'm asking is, the parking that is, you have the handicap spots here. The UV, I think the board and the public would like to see that elsewhere.
Okay.
I realize the hardship, but I think that's a self-created hardship that we talked about before regarding the panel.
Understood.
All right?
Understood.
So the UV charge stations can go over here, I believe. You can put additional parking here, maybe 3 spots may fit in that spot, that area. Here as well, you can put additional parking. That would completely eliminate the parking here. The ramp, I don't know how the ramp may or may not affect this stand of trees here, because I know you have the chimney. I don't know the space that's here, or whether or not you can move that ramp. That would be something that I think you should consider strongly.
You can move the ramp.
You can, right, and maybe maintain some of these trees. And
Well,
remove- we may not have to lose all.
if you're gonna put the dumpster over there,
Right.
you've got to have room to put the dumpster and to be able to back into it, etc.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so if you're gonna do that, you would be able to eliminate the parking on the other side where now the handicap is, and put the handicap over on the, where the chimney is.
Right.
On that side of the building.
Right. And by doing this, what we would do is we'd get rid of the lampposts that are here, right? I don't see any need for this feature, that circular feature.
Well, you need that for fire protection when you go down there.
Say what?
Dan, could you speak to that?
You need to have a turnaround that's there so you have access for vehicles to turn around if they're blocked in the parking lot. So, and if PA has certain standards, that's the way we chose to do it.
Okay.
If the town tells us we don't need to meet NFPA, more than happy to give it
No,
a...
fire safety is very
Well,
important.
I think you could probably also, there'll still be an aisle here where the, can you see the hand on there?
Well, you could do a total hammer.
Right, so maybe pull in, but then they have a little area to still be able to back here and then make
Well,
their
I could
turn out.
straighten it out and make it a total hammerhead, but there's still gonna be something there, Dan. Whether it
Yeah.
be a circle or whether it be
Yeah.
a hammerhead.
I think it could be smaller than the circle though, because of that.
It's 50 feet long, plus 75 on the other side, 22 feet wide.
But not a circle.
So it's still pretty big either way.
But you can use some of the aisle at least for it, so.
You can use some of the aisle for one end,
Yeah.
one side, but not the other side. It's a total hammer. We could try different options, or now one thing I want to ask the board: we're talking about the parking. We didn't choose the parking number; your code did. Now, if you have relief on the parking, we'd be more than willing to listen. But we did not choose 44 spaces. The 44 spaces is based on the size of the building and your code.
It's 35.
Yes.
On your plan says 35.
Well, the 35 that the 44 is because we put EV. You really can't count EV.
Why can't you count
Because
EV?
a normal car
Code
can't
specifies.
a normal car can't sit in an EV space.
That's a policy decision.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the town accepts that, we can use them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's a town
I can
determination. Other
accept
towns don't. So
Well, we don't have a firm policy.
that's why
about
we
that.
have-
And if you don't have an electric vehicle there charging, I think it's an available.
Well, that's what clarification we wanted to do. I took the conservative approach where most other towns don't take them. So,
Right.
so I took that and start and says showing something and you being told that I was 8 cars short. So. That's why we're here at Sketch, I think, to kind of discuss that. So if you're saying the 8 EV can be counted toward the 35, that will reduce some. I agree.
I don't think our code, and Dan, correct me if you're right, if I'm wrong, distinguishes whether it's an EV or not.
It does not.
All right, so it's not a code issue.
And Joe.
You can choose to say that you don't want regular cars to park in an EV space. That's what a lot of parking lots do. But that's more of a policy decision on the landowner. That's not anything in our code.
Not necessarily, it's not in your code, but it is in the code for reimbursement by the state for the EV cost. It has to be primary for EV use.
So a private owner decides to put in EV charging stations. They look to
Except
get a grant from the municipality. And so, I mean, that's not really our concern whether whether you win a grant or not. If we're you brought up code, and so this is not a code issue.
I understand that. I just explained it to her.
Yeah.
Understood.
I'm not arguing. I'm just.
Yeah.
This is sharing of information where we came from.
Yeah.
I'm receiving your information, accepting it.
And Joe, so the purpose behind this is to move the lampposts on the other side of that building, eliminating light pollution.
I think we can do that. I just don't want to minimize or let people think here tonight that we're not going to lose a good portion of those trees. Because I did the layout.
Right, understood.
We're going to lose 30 or 40 of those trees.
But one of the gentlemen talked about how homes and developments, remove trees, and he's right.
Okay.
But our job is to mitigate that by attempting to restore what we removed.
Okay.
So I think we can all agree, the board and the public, that we need, and I'd like Rob to speak to beefing up and Pete, the buffer with indigenous species of plants and trees.
I think
We're going to be looking for taller trees, much taller, because we'd like the view shed resolved before one of the gentlemen moves on.
Well, my question to that is, it seems like we're
enjoy his view shed while he's alive. So,
if I may ask on that, if we're being asked to move the parking to the other side to minimize input, which I understand that concern, but also have the extra expense of adding more buffer in an area where we're not building anymore, to add extra screening to somebody.
But that's
I'm not on board with that. That's, some of our members may be asking that. I'm not asking for you to locate parking on the other side of
I
the
need a direction tonight which way to go.
You do.
right.
So
Sorry?
if you need a
He needs
vote or something,
direction.
I need a direction.
No, so at some point we'll.
So all,
we'll
I
have
mean,
to tell
just
him.
Please,
for me to clarify,
Yeah, go ahead.
all I'm saying is that some of the public have asked or believe that there's too many parking spaces. You have more parking spaces than what's required by the code. All I would do is just reduce, I remove this area of parking. I'm not asking for you to add additional parking over here. I'm okay with the parking you have over here. Removing this would go a long way to alleviating the impact that some of our residents have expressed.
And Rob, I want to ask Pete, because I think we're agreeing on the same. I believe Rob and you agree. You're not asking for all of the parking that is directly in front of the house to be moved to the side, are you?
Yes.
Oh, you are?
I am, because of the view
Of the house?
of the house.
Okay.
And the view of the house lends a lot to the area, and it would also lend to, shall we say, the rural character.
Okay.
And if there's not a lot of parking or if there is no parking in the front of the house, that house will be seen. And I think that would be an additional attraction rather than a building with parking in the front. Oh, there's another farm stand or whatever.
Yeah.
So, Rob, that's
and
why.
I appreciate that. I do. I think the one thing we can all agree is the issue with the parking here.
Right.
Now, what you're saying in addition is you have an issue with the parking right in front of the building, and normally I'm right with you on that. But if the trade-off is a removal of a bunch of trees or parking here, I'd rather not remove the trees and keep the parking there.
Well, I think you should look at okay.
So if I may, and I don't think that this is improper procedure, Jonathan, tell me if it is, all right? But there are some people in the audience who haven't spoken. You've heard our comments, all right? And I'll permit people who have spoken to speak again, as long as there aren't other people who haven't spoken that like to speak. So, okay, sir. If you could please just approach the podium, state your name and your address. Is this all right, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sorry, what did you, Janice? Go.
Can I just ask one thing about the parking before we do that?
Please.
And this isn't something I can answer tonight, but maybe we could get together and look at the code and what number of spaces the code actually requires. Because we may be, because Joe took the really conservative approach, and I'm looking in here thinking that there may be some room for you to make some decisions about how many spaces we need.
Very good.
That we might be able to adjust some of it that way.
Sounds like a good plan.
Take a
Yeah.
look at that.
Thank you, Janice. Yep. So.
Hi, my name is Charles Brooks, and I'm at 21st Glen, Oakwood. Just a quick question. There's a structure in front of the house, and I was just wondering, do they plan on taking down that structure as well, or are they turning that into something else, as far as the farm stand or anything else?
You're speaking about the shed that it looked like an old.
It's a well-built
Yeah.
shed. It's not a shed that's
it is.
It's a lot.
It was probably a well house.
We were just like, okay, let's knock this
Right?
down. It's
Do you,
actually-
do you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it adds.
That's great.
Yeah, I think, you know, whoever built it did a nice job, and,
Right.
you know, I just didn't know if they were planning on just knocking it down, if they were gonna turn it into something as far as the farm stand goes.
Joe, did you want to speak to that? Very good. All right. Thank you. I like it too. Thank you. Yeah, I think there was one other person that hadn't spoken yet. Sir? Yep.
I'm Dave Carl. I live at 5 Green Street. I hear a lot of it's only going to be like a 5-10 minute stay time. In and out, get your donuts, have your coffee. How long does it take to charge a car?
It depends on the, you know who knows more about that? Rob. He knows.
The stuff I
Are you
see-
asking, is that rhetorical or you want an answer?
I'm just asking. The stuff
Okay.
I see on TV,
Yeah.
it's up over an hour, right?
Yeah.
Depends on the charger.
Is it a level 2?
Again, I'm no electrical genius, but I mean, it just seems a little unusual around and around about. I mean, are you going to drive there with your electrical vehicle on E? Or if you go there, you better have enough to get home. I mean, common sense. That's just me. And then they said something about a circle in front of the house. And I kind of agree with you, that's going to impede the ruralness of it. And then they said they have to do that because of fire.
There's fire.
But what is,
Well-
I'm going to walk over here.
Fire advisory board.
Didn't they like create a road from Peter's driveway out to Dutchess County 7 towards the house?
Yes. It's,
Well, why don't they just
I don't know whether I might have
continue
said
up?
that too
I
fast.
can't see, then I'm blind.
So here's the main entrance. Let me get my right here. So the main entrance to the farm is here. This is the house, right here. They're going to come in Old Poquay Road, which is here. All right, that's on his property. This is the new
Yeah, so,
Beekman Poquay
so
Road.
this is Beekman Quick Road, right?
Right here is
No,
Beekman
up there.
Poquay Road.
Okay, so they came somewhere from here to the house.
They're going to come from his.
No, they
main
already
entrance.
did it. They ran over with bulldozers and shit, right?
Well, that is the old driveway here that's going to get abandoned. All right, there's going to be a rain garden here. It's basically a catch basin that's going to catch all of the runoff from the property.
And when that fills, because I live at 5 Green Street
Okay.
in the Meadows, and my whole area is saturated. I want to say at least 9 months out of the year, because where we live, it's low.
It's low.
Water flows. And it's getting really, if they divert more water there, pretty soon, I'm going to be under it, you know?
Okay.
Shit rolls downhill.
All right. The engineer made a note, so he's going to be taking a look at that. Thank you for your comments.
Again, the fire thing, I don't know anything about, but the aesthetics, just gonna put a circle in there, that's kind of.
Well, so there's a fire advisory board in the town of Beekman, and they're going to look at that. Thank you.
It's Scott Roro again. It seems to me we're arguing about parking spots in front of the house. Why can't he use the overflow that he has right there by his entrance? Move the flagpole and the sign over to the opposite side, build a parking lot in that overflow, and make a walking path right to the house, the back of the house, and leave the front of the house open for people who have disabilities and have like 4 handicap spaces there. Is that possible?
Done that over here.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
Would be a question for the applicant.
Yeah, that's a consideration that the engineer will.
Fence right there that would hide in people, 6 or 8 foot fence right there, and hide the parking, the lights for cars coming in right there. It seems like an easy solution.
You're talking about the field that's on the other side of the entrance drive?
Correct. Correct. Like when you pull up the driveway that you have,
Right.
where the flagpole and the sign sits, just move the flagpole to the opposite side, and then use that overflow area as a parking area, and build a walkway to the back of the house.
Sir, just a comment for you to consider, Joe. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Straka. I live on Pembroke Creek Lane, and my house actually faces directly the entrance into Bartlett's. So, light bulb just went off. I didn't realize you guys were going to redirect the traffic into the main entrance, into the new parking lot. So, I thought you guys were using the same driveway. So my only concern is, I think it's a great idea. I think we need stuff like this in our town. My only concern is the headlights. the hours stayed, what was stated, at night during the winter, I'm gonna get more headlights coming into my house that faces the entrance, plus my neighbors directly across the street from me would get that in the back of the house. So, consideration, I don't know if there could, trees on the Dalton Point side of the property to cover that, but again, I think it's a good idea. That's just raising it.
Thank you for your comment. Yes? Is there anyone else speak about the parking, the location of the parking? Yes.
I heard Pete's proposal, and I heard Rob's counter that he didn't like it, so that leaves me with, I don't know, I think it's something that hasn't been debated from the environmental committee's standpoint.
Right.
I'm concerned with cutting down trees, obviously.
Right.
But I'm also concerned with the appearance.
Right.
You know, I'm right now involved with looking at the mill house, and the big issue there is appearance. The place is falling down, it looks terrible. This building, as Pete says, is a very nice looking old building. And you start putting cars in front of it, okay, and then put in the other side of it, you're cutting down a lot of trees.
Right.
So I'm torn between two things for my committee.
I look forward to.
So I think it's something you guys should be debating.
We should, right. And the public, the purpose of me reaching back out to you was for you to consider that point that is being debated here. We're all torn about that. It's, Rob, I think you said they were sugar maples?
Yeah, I think that's a sugar maple.
Right, so that's a stand of sugar maples over here. Just so you know, Clifford Schwartz is the chairman of the Conservation Advisory Committee for the town of Beekman, and he's written 3 laws: forestry law, wetlands law, and what was the third one? The steep slopes law, right? Preventing development on our cliffs and mountains. So this is we believe to be a stand of sugar maples here, right? And this is Beekman Polkwake Road. This is the front of the building. The entrance from the main will come through a stand of trees. The septic will be here, and the parking will be on top of the septic. All right, which is a good dual use of those 2 elements that need to be built in. What we're trying to do is protect these neighbors' welfare and peace of mind here, the enjoyment of their backyards. We're trying to figure out how to move the parking here, which I think we've satisfied, the UV charging stations. It seems as though the engineer can handle that. We're not sure about the handicap or the ramps, but we're very strongly recommending that they be moved over here. Pete Poltrack is looking to protect the view of this historical home that is here and move these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parking spots from this location over in this area here. So we're trying to figure out whether or not to lose the trees for the sake of the parking. And that's what we were hoping some of you would weigh in on.
Hey, John, hold it. While you're right there. Also, get up there. Right up here, I think this path.
This what?
These 2 lines right here.
Yes.
Okay. I think they say that it's an asphalt path.
It is.
It is?
Why?
Because it needs to be
Handicap.
Handicap requires it to be asphalt.
From where to where?
There's a ramp from the building down on it, so that people can go all the way out. We're anticipating handicap people using it.
Excuse me, the handicap parking is here.
That's one what we're also anticipating.
It has to be a smooth, solid surface. Doesn't say it has to be asphalt.
Okay, so if you're gonna have a asphalt or a concrete ramp
Oh, I didn't even see that.
through the woods, you are gonna have tree disturbance, root disturbance, and I guarantee you, and Rob will back me up on this, after you put that concrete or asphalt path in, you're gonna kill the trees that are immediately adjacent to the path. But what started me on this with John is that you've got this path going out to Barton's current laneway. All right? Fine. If you need that path for handicapped and people also can walk on it, and there should be no reason why you could not put parking on the left-hand side of the entrance drive as you drive into the orchard.
That's a strong point. And that, one of the neighbors actually brought that up, and he's a friend of mine, and I only hang around with smart friends. So,
Chair, I don't think we're going to resolve the design tonight.
No.
I think the most important thing is to, that the applicant heard the public and that they heard our comments and that they go back and find as Jason said, a balance and come back to us with an alternative plan. I don't think the plan has to change that much. It just,
John.
that's fine. You can, we'll clear it up.
Excuse me, we're not going to design this for you. All we're going to do is give you what our concerns are, and you're going to do your best to meet those concerns.
Right. We'll clarify. I'll give you a list and we'll clarify. Mr. Crane, I don't want you standing there too long.
Okay, yeah, I spoke earlier. There's an old Joni Mitchell song some of us remembered from the 60s, which is, we had paradise and they tore it down for a parking lot.
Right.
I just hate to see the old growth trees being destroyed in order to adjust the parking. I think it was a really bright idea, a really good idea to move some of the parking across out of there so you can preserve the trees. These trees they're living beings. They do so much for us. These old trees. They give us oxygen so we can live and animals can live. They provide homes for the animals. They absorb pollutants. They add beauty. They're living things, and I think that try to protect the old trees rather than cutting them down. It's just so important. I think that if you do that, everything will kind of work out. I think a lot of good ideas came up, but to move the parking somewhere else, I think you could solve that conflict.
Thank you.
I really do. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Crane.
Yeah.
So, Joe, to that point, right, you have a well designed asphalt walk, all right, that is going into the existing parking lot, all right. I would think that would save Mr. Barton money, being that he could move some of the he already has a parking lot there, and now we're not building a parking lot. We're not using gravel, and you're not grading for new spots. So that is a great suggestion. That will also move the streetlights that are on the buffer side of the property. Right, so now you're moving streetlights over on the chimney side of the building. Now, floodlights with shields on them that will mitigate the glare and eliminate the glare. We'll resolve that on the neighbor's side of the property. Right. So we can eliminate all of the parking lamps on the buffer side, the neighbor's side of the property. We talked about cleaning and clearing that's up to the owner's discretion, Mr. Barton's discretion. I'm sure that's what his intention is, to return that side of the property into something that you talked about the architecture of the building. That was the first time we heard really about what your intentions were in terms of color. We don't know whether you're going to paint it, recite it, or whatever, we'd like to know what those colors are and what the materials are going to be. I know you're not going to leave it the way it is because it's peeling and chipped and falling. My son Aiden did a lot of work removing some of the chips while I was talking to Mr. Barton. He'll know what I mean. The 6-foot fence that's proposed, that needs to be increased 10 feet minimum, in my opinion, unless a neighbor feels it should be taller than that. Is it allowed by code?
Yeah.
I can't speak to that. We'd have to check.
I think 8 feet is code.
I think 8
Is
feet
it?
might be code.
I'm pretty sure.
You wanted to speak, Faye. I'm sorry.
Only when I get a chance. I just wanted to say, I wish more people had stayed. I've been involved with the zoning and planning for at least 20 years. And I have to tell you, this has been the best public hearing I've ever been involved with. And I give credit to the residents that are being affected. They're looking at both sides of it. They're looking at, it's going to affect me, but yet it's good for the community. And they respect that it's a good businessman and hopefully a plan. And I think what's come out of this tonight is we have our engineers and attorney here that have been given guidance that we're not, I'm not talking about myself, you're not against this, but you'd like it to be as best as it could be. And I'm very proud of the town of Beekman, I must say.
And Mrs. Garrido is our county legislator also, for those of you who don't know. Thank you. Yes.
And I love trees.
Yes, she does. And so the hours of operation, all right. I was under the impression that hard cider was going to be served. That's a product that Mr. Barton grows. And I was confused because I tried to reach out to Peter. Okay. Oh, all right.
About the hours of operation, because we went with the code, and I don't have. I know conversation, I don't want to commit to anything.
He's on vacation. You shouldn't have done that, Janice. He and I talked. He's working on his tan right now.
Yes.
All right? He's trying to get that farmer's tan more even and spread out. He wants to close the gaps.
So we had, but I know the addition is a lot like Knoxville Road, so I don't know if it's going to go much beyond. I think it's not going to go beyond the nighttime, but I don't want to commit to that because I really want to talk, but I will get an answer for that.
Right.
And in the morning time, I know, I'm guessing the morning time would be early because I think Knoxville Road was that early time. And you can think of it, people swinging by on the way to work.
Right.
That's the other thing I wanted to cover, because I think people might have misunderstood some of what I said. I think some people understood, but there are people that are going to be able to pop in and pop out, unlike they would be able to when it was on the farm, sometimes it's fresh and cider. But it is also meant to be that, because you are going to sit down for an hour.
Yes. Right. Yes. It'll be a lot like, the apple core. He has that live edged shelf to the left there where you have stools. And I go there and I have an egg sandwich and I'm there for half an hour, 45 minutes or longer if I'm on the phone. And then there's a lot of people who are getting stuff to go. They're going in, they're leaving, they're buying produce and meat that's sold. The smokehouse has product there, and there's milk and eggs and all of these things. So you're right, it's going to be a mix.
I think what I wanted to before, I mean, you're going to show clarification, but before Joe, you start joining in, is when you, Dan, Jonathan, and Don, we get together, figure out how many spaces we think we need. Because like he went to the server meeting, we could just remove some spaces that way. Because one of the issues is it is still 2 different parcels. So he owns both, so he can give himself at least.
Right. Right.
But if we get a number, maybe it gives us more flexibility if the number can be small.
Right. Understood. Then there was, propane, right? I'm sure that will be placed in a safe place and with all of the protections. So let me see if there was anything else. Oh, all right. The trees and the variety of trees in the buffer. Rob, did you want to speak about that? I believe Beth mentioned 5 feet apart. She talked about arborvitaes. I believe the plans specify white spruce and cedars. Do you plan on doing anything more in terms of plantings there? You weren't? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think it
At the last meeting, I
Norway
talked
spruce instead of white spruce at the last meeting was talked about.
Norway white spruces have a disease.
Or have a disease. And,
I also like red cedars if you want to do a cedar. A red cedar is similar to an arborvitae. It's more native. It's more of a native plant. And it'll achieve the same thing. And it's very good. It's a tough tree. It grows quick and it lasts a long time.
Hey, Rob, you're not gonna like me.
I love you, Peter.
I'm gonna suggest my favorite barrier plant.
Oh, God.
Go ahead. I was hoping you wouldn't forget this.
Say bamboo?
Please.
Bamboo.
Bamboo. 3 of us want bamboo, Rob.
That's really
We want
Real
lots
native.
of bamboo. We love
That's
bamboo.
native to this town, right?
That's the quickest way to annoy your neighbor. Because it'll grow into their property and they will not be able to get rid of it.
Rob, I disagree with you. I really do. If you look at bamboo plantings,
It was going so well.
they do screen.
It will definitely screen.
They'll take over the whole parking lot.
Rob, maybe you could make some suggestions.
If you ask any 2 people, they'll have a different opinion on what types of plants. But the universal thought is to use native plantings. That's the one thing that, if you use native plantings, that's what's helping the environment. Now, we could agree and disagree on what types of
species,
plants. It's not a discussion you want to have. You don't want to talk about religion, politics, or choice of trees.
Species.
Yeah.
So I'm particularly interested in larger trees. Do either of the arborists or landscape architect have any suggestions about size of trees for these species?
You mean
and
to
quantity?
Specify them for planting?
Yes, plantings, the height.
I mean, you're limited to what you can get, to what the market provides. So, typically smaller trees have a higher success rate when you're planting, in my opinion. But I don't want to design for the designers.
Yeah, right.
I really just think it's important to express that the community neighbors are asking for a buffer, and we would like to see a mitigation of loss of trees. And we should attempt to use trees that are native plants wherever possible.
But Rob, I think we could specify a minimum height.
Like we did with the solar farm, right?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
We made some requests. 12 feet was on the low side, 14 feet was the high side. Large root balls so that they don't die. I learned from these guys, all right? So, I think the quantity is a bit sparse right now, and I'll leave that up to you and Pete to beef it up and present a more dense buffer. The fence, we'll have to figure that out. I don't know what the maximum height is permissible or how far he has to go to get higher under these circumstances.
Can you raise it off the ground?
Yeah, that's a good thought.
The fence itself, yes.
That's
But we can.
the zoning, my God.
I don't think we would require him to go to zoning under these circumstances.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're omitting the parking on that side of the house, then it begs the question: do you even need the fence any longer?
Right.
That's a good point.
I'd still do plantings, but the
meeting
fence is
still
there
open.
for keeping the.
Does the public have any comments about what we've just brought up? Anybody like to comment on the fact that we are causing the applicant to consider moving all of the parking, the dumpster, the electric vehicle charge stations? What would the public be willing to consider? Sir, Drew, could you, just for the purposes of the cameraman, and capturing your comments on the videotape.
Drew Valentine, 17 Green Street. I
Thank
just heard some talk about maybe no fence. I'm for a fence. I don't want patrons walking into my yard. It's a mere 60 feet away.
Understood. Maybe the height might not be a consideration if we're mitigating the...
Well, are we mitigating? We don't know what the plan is yet with the trees.
Right.
And how high they will be and how many there will be.
Right.
How far apart they will be.
Valid points. Very valid points. Thank you, Drew.
Drew, why do you want the fence there?
I think it would deter people from walking into our backyards.
Barbed wire fence.
Right.
Barbed wire fence.
Yeah, I didn't realize it's more for security. I thought it was to shield the headlights.
Well,
if you're looking for
it's up in the
security,
air about what we were talking about, how many trees and how big and how thick and all that kind of stuff. I am for a fence and trees, both.
Okay.
To mitigate the light issue coming onto our properties. That's all.
And improve your view shed. Then we also talked about what hasn't been addressed is outdoor seating. I don't know if he has any intentions of outdoor seating. That's something we've mentioned a couple of times. Nothing? Not on your, okay. 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 So that's, and gravel. So one of the board members mentioned gravel, and we'd like...
More than happy to consider gravel, but gravel, once it's compacted, has the same stormwater characteristics as millings. It doesn't much more. We're more than happy to consider it, but we have to do blacktop in the area where the handicap goes. And now with the law, with the handicap path from the handicap spaces, the car goes to it all the way over. So half of it's going to still be blacktop anyway.
I don't want to speak for Rob, but I believe there was an environmental or health, because of the runoff of millings.
I'm a stormwater civil engineer, and I'll tell you, there's no difference between gravel and millings once we treat it on the outside of the lawn. We'll put gravel in, but gravel gets compacted. Gravel gets us, after about 2 years, it's compacted down to the same density, same runoff consistency as blacktop.
But you are adding annually millings, right? Not maybe annually, but it does get...
It gets fixed.
It gets fixed?
All of them. We're trying to, but I'll let Peter decide, but we'll recommend.
I'll leave that
gravel.
up.
We'll pass it on. But I can't take any credit for it when I do my stormwater guy.
No,
it's not just...
We have to design to impervious when we do gravel as well. I would be asking him for that calculation in that manner, so.
I wish I could give you benefit, and I wish the gravel would do a little bit more.
But it's not just the runoff coefficient, it's also the character issue of what looks more rural with the farmhouse. I think that would go a long way to making a gravel lot would look a lot more like a rural setting in front of the house as opposed to asphalt millings.
I think asking the applicant to move all the parking over, to add all the trees, add a fence, and to ask them to concede to your surface seems to be a little bit more, because if he doesn't want gravel, that's not him. But what is left of his design?
Can I just clarify that? I'm not suggesting moving the parking. Let me just finish, please. I'm suggesting omitting the extra spaces above and beyond what's in the code. I'm okay with the layout of the spots in the front. So that's actually not really that big of a hardship to explain to Peter, in my opinion. It's the same design, you're just removing some of the parking.
My consensus, I calculate tonight that there's more than enough board members that want to move to the other side. My design's going to be to move it to the other side and remove it out of the front unless I hear differently tonight.
Right.
Is that the case?
That's how I hear everybody talking.
Well, right.
Unless I'm told differently, I'm misunderstanding.
Well, I think the idea is that you might want to consider the use of the other parking lot that's already existing in the front of the main entrance.
That's also one of the other.
Yes, so we're not asking you to remove parking, we're actually coming up with an easier, more equitable solution for parking, I think, right? Less money out of his pocket as well, I believe. But,
Yeah.
So I think that's a smart solution all around.
Those are two alternatives. One alternative which I hear is the north side.
Yep.
Hey,
Do
Rob,
we?
And you have your path already there. You have your
Just a quick-
sidewalk
Quick question on
already
this.
built in.
This is a separate parcel, right?
There's two separate tax plans.
So how do we legally have parking for this facility on another
We have to do through easements on the.
easements and
So
leases
different
or
than
whatever?
access, we have access across it, so we're handling that with easements.
Okay, so that's fine.
That's not a deterrent.
All right.
It's all doable, yep.
Okay, no problem.
Janice will
hey,
figure
Rob,
it out.
you know, or if the parking is taken away from the front of the house, then if on the chimney side of the house where you're having parking, really at that point, if it is asphalt or millings, you're not destroying the visual effect of the rural character of the farm building itself. If you follow what
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
But what you're losing is a grove of trees.
I don't
You're
wanna
putting it
do
right
that.
where the grove of trees
Yeah.
are.
Is this a scenic highway?
So, I mean.
So where do you stand on that? I mean,
Where
he's
I
saying that the
stand-
majority of the group.
Just to be clear on that, Joe, I'm for that stand of sugar maples. I'd like them to be preserved as much as possible. I mean, you have a 10-incher there, a couple of 12s, I mean, that are close to the house. But I'm feeling, we're keeping that stand of sugar maples. Your septic and the parking there, that's over it. We're not suggesting you should do anything with that. The rain garden, that's intact and in place. So we're not asking you to disassemble your entire design at all. We're merely asking that what's on the left, find a way to put it on the right or the back. Like the dumpster, maybe that can go off of. I personally think it's probably more convenient for the employees if it were closer to the back of the building. I don't know where the door is, but getting the truck to get back to it is a problem, and I don't know how you're going to resolve that. Pete had suggested that the dumpster actually go in towards the front of. I'm a little skeptical.
towards the chimney.
Towards the chimney area.
I
don't know. I can't design your plans for you, Joe. I'm not an architect. I'm sorry. I don't even mean to delve into it that far. Yeah. Right.
I think you have to get on the property and look at it.
Right.
You can't do it just from the set
No,
of
you
plans.
can't. Right.
And
Yep.
you cannot do it just from a set of plans.
You just can't.
I was on the property, and I don't think I'll ever be comfortable with putting the parking on that side of the building where all
Yeah.
those trees are.
No,
I'm just gonna have a hard time getting.
I'm with you. I think
We can
Pete
debate
came up with a
millings
good
versus
solution.
gravel and stuff,
you know?
but that's.
Putting that parking over in the existing lot.
My client may not be willing to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I'll
Well-
present that to my client, but.
Okay.
We want to do the parking on this property or to support this property. And the only place to put that would be where the stand of maples are, which is something that's.
So we'll have
available.
to have that meeting about the
Well,
quantity, and we'll go from there.
Seeing as he's the owner of both parcels,
Yeah, but if now he is, what about the
Now we
future?
can own it both.
Right, what about the future?
what about the future? He's incorporated that parcel into the farm, right?
Are the two separate tax parcels?
You could still sell it.
Any other comments or questions from anybody?
Are we gonna close the public hearing?
Janice,
No, I
Joe,
think it should be
you're in good
open.
shape? Anybody from the community, anything? Any comments or questions?
I make a motion to adjourn the public
Okay.
hearing.
Can I have a second to
Second.
adjourn the public hearing?
Second.
to the March meeting, to be clear?
To the March meeting.
The March meeting. We're going to
Yes.
adjourn the public hearing. Well, we hadn't voted yet, but I have a motion and a second for that motion. Yes, no, sure.
It's really up to Joe in a way,
Come back
because
whenever.
the
just-
turnaround is kind of quick for the deadline here.
We're
I think
just
it's,
adjourning it. It can come back at any time.
well, no, we want to adjourn it to a date specific so they don't
okay.
have to re-advertise.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the submittal deadline is the 27th, which is a week and a half away. So, yeah. So just give me a call, maybe we can.
You okay with this? We never closed.
All right, so then you gotta finish the vote.
Okay.
So adjourn
Any,
to March
I know.
16th meeting.
do any of the board members have any amendments to the motion? Any concerns or discussion? No? All right, roll call vote.
A, yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, unanimously adjourned the meeting. Okay, thank you. Yep. Can I have a motion to close the planning board meeting?
I will make a motion to close the planning board
May I have a
meeting.
second?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We close.
Good night, everybody.